Okay guys, welcome back. Um, this is the finished model. There are two more objects I added simply because I was running out of time and I just went ahead and did them off camera. So basically they're simple. It's nothing complicated. Just this I added the crosshair and some slugs just to give the viewer the idea that that's where the slugs come in. I also did a UV map for the head of the slug, simply because I thought that um, it would be cool to have something interesting at the head here. The shell is basically a cylinder with some extrusions and insets. It's really nothing complicated. And then I went ahead and used clone to clone them and rotate them manually to form this. I also did a small texture for the slug. This is after I exported the EPS, the encapsulated postscript, which is actually a UV template. So I did a color map and a bump map. This is about it when it comes to modeling. So now all we have to do is light and render this model. First of all, we're gonna take care of lighting. So let's go on and place this on the floor and create a floor, an actual floor. So call this floor, go to top, and I'm actually going to create a drop down floor. It's really simple. I'm just using edge extend on this one, and now I'm going to bevel this to make the transition softer. Okay, and now if we jump into the render tab, we're not going to see too much because we don't have any lights in our scene, but we're gonna take care of that very quickly. And I'm not gonna use something complicated to light this scene. I'm gonna use a environment, a studio environment, which comes with the Modo 401 content. And I'm gonna use maybe softbox spotlight for the environment. And I'm gonna turn on global illumination. And as you can see, we're already getting something. Obviously this is just flat lighting, so we don't really want that. Now to test render the scene, we're just gonna switch over to a very low anti-aliasing sampling, 2 samples per pixel. The rate threshold is good at 0.1, and we also want, one thing, don't forget to modify the gamma, set it to 2.2, and we're going to use 128 irradiance rays. Now, we're going to have to add a few lights of our own. So, I decided to use point light for this scene. We're going to use about 3 of them. I like the shadows from point lights. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we're going to use one area light too. So, I'm just going to set the light here. Actually, it would be a good idea to turn the intensity of the environment to 0, or actually leave it to 1 and just turn off global illumination, just so we can get an idea of what our lights do. So I'm going to set a radius, this one, to, I don't know, 10 meters. Turn off simple shading, and I'm going to bump up the intensity to 6. Okay, so I'm going to put one right here on the side. I'm going to use a smaller radius. Now I'm going to duplicate it and put the other one on the other side. Obviously our intensity needs to go a bit higher, maybe 8 for this one, and change the color to something warm, maybe a light orange. Okay, and change the color of this other light to something like that. Okay, and now let's add an area light. It's gonna have probably 3 meters. Probably too small, but we're gonna see that in just a second. Yeah, it's too small. Actually, the area light was fairly good, but the dimension of our model and our scene is off scale. So one way to fix that is to just select everything and just scale it down to, let's say, 30% its original size. And now let's go and place it down again. Make sure you set the camera. Focus like that. And let's change our resolution to something that will allow us to render faster. Okay, and this looks not too good. Mainly because our lights are now placed wrong. Okay, and now let's grab our area light. And maybe turn the intensity of these down. Because don't forget, we also have an environment material, which is going to help. Okay. And now if we turn on global illumination, we're going to get a pretty acceptable scene. Now the only thing I want to do is turn this a bit down, maybe 8.5. I'm sorry, 0.85 intensity. Okay, and now let's start by creating a material for our floor. So I'll call this floor. And we actually want to get the floor on top of the base shader and add a shader for itself because we don't want it to be visible to the reflection rays. but we do want it to be a bit darker. Maybe even a bit dark. Give it a tiny bit of specular amount. And 75% diffuse amount with conserve energy on. Or off. It doesn't really matter because it's a very dark color. Okay, now we can probably start by texturing, actually assigning materials to our object. Now for the main body, I decided to use a very cool material downloaded from the Luxology share section. It's a camo material and it looks pretty dang good. So let's start by assigning materials. So let's start with the slug here, because I just want to show you how the texture looks on it. So just select every head of the slug, hit M on the keyboard to assign a new material, and then we want this to be a white. It doesn't really matter because it's going to be changed. Now this is actually the material that holds the slugs together, so I'm going to call this slug hold, and this is going to be the slug shell. Now let's go and assign materials to our buttons. So we're going to have a red and a green button, and we're also going to have some chrome around them. But this chrome is going to be the same material that we're going to use for the barrels, so we might as well assign them with the name barrel. Now this one's going to be red button, and this one's going to be green button. I'm mainly going to use preset materials to texture this scene because I don't really have time to test out materials. This is going to be black. Basically it's going to have nothing but color information, almost no specular, no reflectivity. And this one's going to be, I don't know, black plastic. Okay, now for the ammo holder, this is going to be black. We're not going to really be able to see inside, so now this is going to have the same material as the body. So I'm going to call it body and assign some greenish color to it because it's going to be green, a green camo. Now this seam here, remember what we said, that we want to fake a seam here, so we're actually going to assign a black material on it. It's not going to be that visible, but doesn't really matter at this point. Now the base. So the base has two materials on it. It's the body and the metal. So this is going to be body. Hide that. Now these screws are going to have the same material as the barrels. Okay, now this is going to be the rubbery thingy, but since it's not going to be that much visible, I'm just going to assign a black plastic material on it. Okay, now these are going to have also the material for the body, but we're going to assign a different material to that inner bevel. So we're going to assign the barrel material. Now the base is gonna have barrel material on it and body material on it. Okay, this one's gonna have, again, full body material on it, and these supports and the barrels are gonna have the barrel material on it. Okay, now we can save. The only material tweaking that we have to do is on the slugs. So I'm gonna create a different camera for that because I don't really want to move my my render cam. So I'm just gonna zoom extends on the slugs. You can do a Shift A to do that, and I'm gonna change here to camera 2. Now for the slugs, before we start to do anything, save your scene. And now we're gonna find the image that I created. So go here at the slug material, add a new layer. We want it to be image map, and we want to use the slug material. As you can see, it looks pretty nice. Now we're gonna add a can actually zoom in on one slug here. Okay, and now we're gonna add the bump map, which is gonna be slug bump. And we want to turn down the intensity of the bump to 20%. Okay, and now we're going to use the material here, the standard material, and give some reflection and some nice specular to our slug. So about 25% specular should do, with 20% for now. We want the roughness to be pretty small because this is a actually was the other way around. This is a metal material, so we want the roughness to be like 20%. Okay, and we want like maybe 5% reflection, or maybe even smaller, 1% with 50% for now. Yeah, that looks acceptable. Maybe even less for now. Okay, and now for the slug hold, I'm gonna probably use a preset for this. Something like rubber, or let's see, maybe some leather. Yeah, leather should do. So I'm gonna use black leather here. I'm gonna change the bump to box. Okay, and I'm just gonna make it a bit smaller, maybe half of what it was, and half again. Maybe 200 millimeters. Okay. Now for the slug shell, we're gonna use something like I don't know, bronze maybe. A matte bronze should do the trick. Yes, this looks pretty nice, and we might go ahead and add I'm sorry and add this the barrel material, add it to the firing mechanism here. Okay, this looks pretty good. And now we're gonna focus on the body. And we're gonna actually render this just a little bit, so I'm gonna hide everything just to ease the render. Okay, so I have a material here which I downloaded. I'm not sure who the author is, but I want to thank him for the this material. I can't really remember his name, but it's a really great material. It's a procedural noise material, and now we want it to be a little smaller, so maybe divide it by 1.5. Sorry, actually we can, yeah. Okay, so this works pretty nice, but we need to turn down the diffuse amount because we want a bit more contrast. So let's try 70%, maybe 60. Okay, 60 looks good. We can give it 2% reflection and 25% for now. It's maybe too much, 25, maybe 15. Okay, so that looks good. Maybe even turn the diffuse amount down to 50%. And make these the size of the noise 100 millimeters. Okay. So we're done with the body. Now we can check with the barrels. So the barrel material, it's gonna be something out of metal, and I'm thinking maybe steel. Okay, maybe a satin finish steel. That should look good. You can see it takes quite a bit to render, but I'm not happy. I'm not happy with it. So maybe cast stainless steel would work better. Yeah, this works a lot better. But still, I don't want the reflection to be fully visible. So maybe we can use the brushed steel. It all depends on, well, it depends if you're happy with it. So for the sake of time, I'm just gonna leave this. But one thing I gotta do, I'm gonna change the mapping to box. Okay, and I forgot at the slug material. Since we have the gamma at 2.2, we need to divide this by 2.2. That gives it more contrast. Okay, so the red button. Well, the red button is basically going to be something plastic. So I'm going to go ahead and use plastic, medium gloss, and I'm going to use red. But I don't like this red. I want a more brighter red. Okay, this is how it looks. Now we're going to copy this material and we're going to assign it to the green button and assign a green color. Okay. Now black, as we said, remains black. We're going to paste the same color to the black plastic and we're going to assign a black material. And that's about it for the materials. Now we can unhide everything. We can set our camera to camera. And now we can get it to render. But before we do that, we need to change a few settings. So go to render. We're going to increase the size to 1024 by 850. Okay. And we need a few more outputs. So actually just one more. So we're going to duplicate the alpha channel and change it to ambient occlusion. And our grid setting here is 200 millimeters. So we're going to set the occlusion range to something like 150 millimeters. And we can test that out. See what we get. Which is not bad, but still the occlusion range is a bit too much. Maybe 80. Okay, this will work. We just need. Okay, I accidentally thought that the gamma was set to 2.2. Okay, now I'm not sure we really need an alpha output, because what alpha is going to give us is going to give us a white image. So we don't really need an alpha output, so we can delete it. We're just going to use the final color output and the ambient occlusion output if you want to do some post-process. I'm just going to do some just to bring the contrast and other stuff in. Okay, now let's change a bit the render settings. So we don't want only 2 samples. We want 16. I'm going to use a Mitchell filter. And the rate threshold is going to be something like 0.05. And I'm going to change the global illumination settings, the radiance rays to 256, which is not too much, but it's good. Now we can save our scene and we can hit render. Okay, so it finished rendering. It took just over 14 minutes. You can go ahead and save the image. Also, don't forget to save the ambient occlusion. And now I'm just going to load them into Photoshop. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the ambient occlusion over and set it to multiply, and I'm going to turn down the opacity to about 60%. This will help a bit with the contrast, but we still need to do some work. Maybe brighten the image up a bit, and now do some curves again for the contrast. This is maybe too much. Okay, anything that you're happy with. This was about it. It totally depends to you if you like to do post-process work on your images. I do, but something more complicated than this. Also, be careful when you're rendering to make sure that you don't get artifacts kind of like these. This This can probably be avoided if you check your materials more carefully when you do um, set them up. I just didn't have the time to do it, and this was just a tutorial, something that should just give you some info. You are the only one who can perfect your skills. Thanks for watching and have fun.